Hello, it is still Wednesday, May 13th. I think I got the date wrong in the last video. It is May 13th. Comic books came out. I already reviewed the Marvel books in part 1 to this video. And in this part, I will be reviewing the rest of the books I picked up this week, including DC's Convergence books and a lot of Image stuff. So we'll start with Convergence, issue number 6. And in this issue, we actually get a lot of background information on the Convergence event. Like, for instance, what is going on in the New 52 universe. And it turns out that the New 52 universe is not on Telos at all, but Telos is in fact breaking into the New 52 universe. So all of Convergence so far has happened over here, and this is the New 52 universe, and they're dealing with the planet just kind of, getting all up in their grill. And so you have basically everybody here. You have Superman, the Justice League, talking to Superman. They're on the front page over here. They're talking to Superman. You have the Red Lanterns. You have some of the Green Lanterns. You have the, not the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think they're just called the Guardians, aren't they? Yeah. The Guardians, Darkseid, you have the Monitor, or Anti-Monitor over here. He's just the Monitor, yeah. And so they're all basically wondering, what's this giant planet doing? Meanwhile, back on Telos, Deimos had just kind of changed the whole game of Convergence, saying instead of fighting each other, for like a tournament mode, now it's just a big battle royale, and whoever doesn't fight for me will die, and whatever. Yeah, that's about all I got. We find out more of Deimos's plan, which is to remake the universe in his image using all the power from the death of all the heroes on Telos. We have a big battle royale between a whole bunch of people on Telos, finally in that big battle royale we were kind of promised from issue 1. And of course, all the heroes decide to team up, and they're all heroes. We don't want to kill each other. Let's team up and fight Deimos instead, because they're heroes and that's what they do. So not a lot of fighting. We have kind of pre-New 52, pre-Flashpoint Superman really taking charge, taking the lead, becoming the leader of all the heroes. Very fitting, as he's supposed to be, and tells Dick Grayson from Earth 2 to try and talk some sense into Telos and get Telos on our side. Meanwhile, we have two of the Flashes kind of exploring the planet. Jay Garrick from Earth 2 ends up meeting Barry Allen, and they do a little recreation of the Flash of Two Worlds. A little kind of reference there. The first DC multiverse crossover event, Flash of Two Worlds. The cover was Jay Garrett and Barry Allen racing on either side of a falling wall, and so now kind of recreated that. We also have the Red Skies from Crisis on Infinite Earths making an appearance. So lots of just DC mythos stuff going around. Eventually, Dick Grayson talks to Telos, is like, join our side because we're heroes. Telos is like, yeah, okay, whatever. And there's a bit more fighting as all the heroes converge on Deimos, and then Deimos takes his own army of the basically the evil multiverse. So you have lots of Flashpoint, you've got Kingdom Come Superman over here, and a whole bunch of villains. So yeah, it took 6 issues basically, and Convergence is where it should have been around issue 2. This is not a good event. That we're just finding out about what's happening in the New 52 universe, that we're just getting to the point where all the heroes are really interacting with each other in the main storyline. This really should have happened in issue 2. This should not be the past the halfway point. This should be the opening, and then we have the rest of the story, the heroes all finding out how to work together and do this. This should be a 4-issue thing at this point. If they're just now getting to this, seriously, everything before this could have been 1, maybe 2 issues, and this should have been issue 2 or 3, not issue 6. It's just bad. It's bad plotting. They're revealing all this stuff at once about the New 52 universe. They're finally just 6 issues in, just letting all the heroes really interact with each other on their own terms in the main book. It's ridiculous how badly DC is handling this event. Yeah, just left a really bad taste in my mouth. And right now, I'm pretty much only going to finish Convergence because I'm already 6 issues in. Yes, it's a sunk cost fallacy, I know that, but, you know, I might as well at this point. Just to see, I don't know, how they resolve this. I don't know, I'm just really pissed off at Convergence right now. Which doesn't help, the next book I'm going to review here, Convergence Shadow of the Bat, issue number 2. And again, this book is just, I liked the first issue to this, I don't know what happened to this one. Everything in this one is just awful. We're suddenly in this new, basically this whole issue takes place on this aircraft carrier from the I'm not even sure, honestly. The first issue of this just had Batman and Azrael basically fighting some mobsters in Gotham, and or in Metropolis rather, and now they're suddenly in a different city fighting these people. I'm not sure who they are exactly, but these guys in the golden suits over here. Because, I don't know, I guess those are the opponents. And as you can tell, just from, I'm just going to show this page, the art in this book is awful. There's a different artist, I suppose. The art in the first issue is pretty good, I quite liked it. The art in this one is just awful, just not good. Nothing about it is good. It's simplistic, everything keeps on changing, nothing in this art it's not detailed. There's no good expressions or anything going on. It's just not pleasant to look at. And the dialogue is just as awful, pretty much, of Batman spouting out all these weird, just un-Batman-y lines. He's doing kind of Dick Grayson-esque quips. He's, they're not even good quips. They're bad quips. They're just, nothing in this book works. Nothing in this book is interesting. I didn't like it. And it's not even continuing off the first issue at all. I mean, yeah, the first issue kind of was very self-contained, but you could have done something else, even in Gotham, or Metropolis, rather. By the way, I'm not the only one making that mistake. This book, I don't even know if it was edited, because Batman keeps on switching between saying, we have to defend Metropolis, and we have to defend Gotham, and pick one. It's Metropolis. You established it was Metropolis in the first book. It can't suddenly be Gotham in this one. Yeah, just nothing in this book is enjoyable. Gross. Yeah. Fortunately, the last Convergence book I picked up this week is a market improvement. We have Justice League International. Now, saying it's an improvement raises the bar, still not a high bar. This is a book where at least the characters are likable, the art is nicely done, but plot-wise it still doesn't make much sense, especially by the ending. So we have the Justice League International, led by Ted Kord, fighting off against another Justice League. I kind of forget which one at this point. Ted Kord tries being diplomatic with this Wonder Woman from the new universe, but diplomacy fails, so they decide to fight on the outskirts of town. Big fight here. Through the fight, Blue Beetle, Ted Kord ends up getting kind of thrown out of the fight and runs into their Ted Kord, and the two Beetles try to work together instead of fighting each other, because Ted Kord is, I guess, reasonable in every dimension. By the time the two Beetles escape an ambush of Telos' robots and go back to the battle, our Justice League International, the one the cover has lost. Luckily, the other Justice League decides to show mercy, which I guess is allowed on Telos now. You don't have to kill it's not a battle to the death. just winning is enough for your city to be spared. And then at the very end, we get a kind of a cameo by Booster Gold out of nowhere because it's Blue Beetle's birthday. And it's not really an ending. It's like it ended when the fight happened. There's a short epilogue. Well, we lost. No consequences for losing, apparently. And also it's Blue Beetle's birthday, so there's some confetti. Again, out of the 3 Convergence books this week, the best one done. You know, it wasn't offensive in any way, but it still seemed very kind of just rushed and quickly thrown together without much attention paid to, does this actually make sense? Is this actually satisfying? So yeah, Convergence was a mess this week. Just nothing going on. But we're finally done with that. So I get to move on to the non-DC or Marvel books this week, starting with Adventure Time, Marceline got Adrift, issue 5 of 6. So we start with rejoining Princess Bubblegum as she makes a deal with the Leafians. She collects a resource called Glow for the Leafians, and the Leafians will tell Princess Bubblegum where Marceline is. Of course, as established in previous issues, the Glow is actually produced by the aliens that Marceline is basically stranded with. So she's helping them produce the spark or the glow by making music, which the dog aliens are collecting and want to use to escape this asteroid that they're stranded on. And of course, everything kind of goes wrong when PB arrives with the Leafians in tow to try and save Marceline. And of course, that doesn't quite work out as either of them planned. Meanwhile, back on Ooh, we have Jake trying to stop a giant cinnamon bun. Cinnamon bun is still magnetic and literally attracting everybody to him. Formed a giant kind of cinnamon bun made of all the citizens of Ooh that he has run into recently, and trying to stop Cinnamon Bun from just absentmindedly destroying everything. And we also run into Finn a little bit, and Finn is basically kind of nihilistic because he repels everybody he comes across because of the magnetism thing that is also affecting Cinnamon Bun right now. So yeah, pretty much continuing the story as expected, I guess. Not much to say. Kind of keeping the bar, keeping the standard that was established here. A lot of stuff happens. Again, Marceline and Princess Bubblegum reconnect. We have Jake going up against Giant Cinnamon Bun, but it's kind of introduced more than expanded on. So basically, as soon as when Marceline and Princess Bubblegum meet, they don't really exchange any words. They're both kind of knocked out. And the Leafians steal the spark. Jake and Cinnamon Bun don't really they don't really touch each other at all. Jake's kind of just approaching Cinnamon Bun, and yeah, that's about it. So one issue left to solve everything, to wrap everything up neatly, and I'm pretty sure this book can handle it. Now, on to Saga, issue 28. And just as we've come to expect from, I guess, every issue of Saga now, it opens with a joke, and it closes with something that will punch you in the gut. In this issue, it opens with the brand explaining what an abortion is to, I forget this character's name, but apparently she asked and now knows what an abortion is. And it ends with one of the characters sacrificing themselves so Marco and Alana can reconnect. So yeah, for the greater good, I guess. But of course, a sacrifice is a sacrifice. And it's a character that, I guess this does complete their arc. It's not a fridging, I don't think, by any means. This is a character who's gone through an arc, and the sacrifice is, of course, her final act of redemption um, for what she's done. So really, it's satisfying even when it's sad. Saga's really good at that, making everything worthwhile and making the stakes really personal, giving you lots of sympathy and logos for all the characters. So just it keeps on keeping on in that regard, and the feels are as strong as ever with this book. Um, Meanwhile, plot-wise, we have Alana and Hazel and Marco's mom and all of them kidnapped by Prince Robot, not by Prince Robot, by Django and the Freedom Fighters. The Freedom Fighters made a deal with one of the sides of the war to deliver Hazel to them in exchange for a bunch of prisoners that they're keeping. So it's basically Alana and Hazel are part of a prisoner exchange at this point. So yeah, the Freedom Fighters turn out to be huge jerks. Meanwhile, Marco and Prince Robot and the rest of that crew stumbles upon a robot battle cruiser or starship, I guess, and now they have to kind of use evasive maneuvers to evade capture by the robots. We also have the Brand and I forget her name, the Will, like that whole crew, going further on their quest to bring the Will back to life by getting Dragon Seed with help from the brother of the Stalk, and they have a whole kind of weird, twisted, tangled web of people needing to get revenge on other people going on. So that's going to be interesting to follow. So yeah, we're at the point in this book where we're following basically 3 separate stories. It's the point where it can get really messy, and this book isn't as well-paced or well-structured, I think, as some other issues of Saga. Again, still better than like 90% of comic books going out there, but this is very much a, despite the sacrifice, very much kind of a plateau issue, I guess. Yeah, there's it's another chapter in the story. It's not a big key chapter. It's not a huge key issue, despite the sacrifice. But it's still very good. Still one of the best comics being published this every month. So, yeah, Saga. If you're not reading it by now, you really should be. Next up is Odyssey by Matt Fraction and Christian Ward. And this book is just, it really is getting harder and harder to explain every month as the story digs itself deeper, not just into the Odyssey, but as Matt Fraction explains in the back matter to the book, into a whole bunch of kind of classical, both Western classical texts and going into kind of Middle Eastern and Eastern classical texts. And this is the last page of the comic, of the issue. And it's beautiful. Just like look at this page. It is beautiful. It's full of color and movement and motion, and it is space travel. It's just a beautiful page and a great page to end any issue on. And it's also the page where I think where like this part comes from over here. So we're finally getting, it's like a key page that we've seen and little snips and clips before finally getting the full thing and all of its just colorful glory. Really enjoyable last page there. And of course the art in this book is always fantastic. Just flipping back now through a few random pages, hopefully trying to avoid anything that would get me into trouble. The art in this, it's fantastic. Just love every page from the first to the last. This is the first page of the issue. So, yeah, I wish I could just show off every page because it's all wonderful. Christian Ward really is he's pulling out all the stakes for this book, and it really shows. It's really worth it. But yeah, plot-wise, it's starting to get a bit hard to follow. I mean, I can tell you just what happens A to B to C in this book. It involves the gods fucking each other over as that's basically all they do now is the gods kind of having these petty squabbles and using Odyssey and basically the rest of people in existence who aren't gods as kind of pawns, throwing them at each other in order to resolve their own petty arguments. On Odysseus' side of things, she lands on the planet. What was it called here? On the planet Oelia or Aelia, Aeolia. I can't pronounce any of these things. Aeolia, where she meets the leader of the planet, Aeolus, who offers them a new kind of engine. Basically, it's essentially an engine for their ship. And what he wants is he wants to go with them. He wants to come aboard the Odyssey to escape this planet. And we find out why. Turns out he's kind of a monster. So Odysseia ends up kind of sacrificing some of her crew. Not permanently, not sacrificed, but she, to put it frankly, Odysseia kind of whores out some of her crew in order to escape the planet. She promises that she'll be back for them, and she's been a good enough captain to where we want to believe her on that promise. And there's lots of, again, going back to the art, there's just lots of not even subtle imagery here, where we have the new engine being placed into the ship, and there's very strong kind of sex, birth, pregnancy imagery here with the engine being kind of the sperm going into the ship's vagina. So yeah, really, again, pulling out all the stops with the art. And that's just kind of what I can show you. Yeah, and then Poseidon tries to... So Odysseia escapes the planet, goes ludicrously fast. And then Poseidon tries to screw over Zeus, and that goes about as well as you might expect. And we're kind of entering a new chapter. I think Fraction says that this is the kind of final chapter of this volume. So we're reaching a turning point. Again, final page is Odyssey and the Odyssey going off into unknown space as of yet. And we'll see what they're up to later on. And then the very end of this book is an essay about masculinity and femininity in classical Greek heroes, which is a very interesting read. So, yeah, Odyssey, like, to put it simply, is a very complicated book. It's something you really have to pay attention to, read once or twice in order to get all the kind of subtleties and everything that's going on. It's a book you have to work for. It's not just like a normal superhero book, even something like Saga, where you can read it once and kind of get at least everything that's important. It's very complicated, and it's hard to follow. I can't recommend this unless you're really willing to pay this book lots of attention. I can see some people saying it's too complex for its own good, and I mean, admittedly, as much as I like this book, it tries. It's a bit like, books like Ulysses. Again, Ulysses is a kind of Odyssey, Iliad sort of thing. But yeah, all those books in that sort of family, they're intentionally difficult. This is no different. But at the very least, it is a wonder to look at, and it'll keep your attention just visually. And yeah, it's pretty, and you can always follow it. It's never unfollowable. It's never illegible, I guess. You can always tell what's going on. All the actions are very clearly illustrated, even if the words are a bit gobbledygook at some points. It's still very visually stimulating, and you can always tell, okay, so this is what the characters are doing, even if you have no idea why it's important. Yeah, Odyssey, issue 5. I'm going to be following this one for a while, I can tell. And the last book I picked up this week is an issue 1. It is Injection, issue number 1 by Warren Ellis, his new project. Warren Ellis is a writer I've heard a lot of good things about. I read his run on Moon Knight. I reviewed all of that, and I really liked it. I've been trying to pick up some of his older stuff and get into a lot of his newer stuff. This is the first issue 1 of his that I'm reading. As it's come out, I've read a bit of just kind of whet my appetite for Transmetropolitan. I've subscribed to his newsletter, which is brilliant every week. You can probably just Google Warren Ellis newsletter. I definitely recommend subscribing it because even if you have no interest in reading his comics, the newsletter is a fun read every Sunday, very insightful stuff, and just very well written. The guy has a way with words. And from that, I've listened to some of his talks about kind of mysticism and magic and the occult and how stories work. Just like obviously brilliant guy, the sort of guy who like has a very well-deserved following by other well-known, well-respected artists, and I'm glad I can finally kind of read something from the beginning as it's coming out. I have a feeling it's going to be a very rewarding experience. But as little as I've actually read of Ellis, I mean, besides Moon Knight, like an original creation, as I was saying, as little as I kind of know of Warren Ellis, I can still, just from what I know, from the talks I've seen, from what I've read, this is definitely a him story. It has a lot of what makes kind of Warren Ellis's work Warren Ellis. One of the characters in this book, what's his name? Dr. Robin Morell. This guy over here seems like there's a lot of I'm drawing a lot of connections to what I've heard Warren Ellis speak about again in terms of mysticism and magic in the world, and magic and technology and all that, and just kind of England. There's lots of that here. This character is kind of an English encyclopedia, English historian, believes in kind of these kind of ley line sort of dealios running through England, uses them to recharge his Britishness. So yeah, just a very interesting character, one that seems, I don't want to say like an Arthur Avatar, because, or an author kind of stand-in, because I'm not familiar enough with Ellis to really make that sort of judgment, but I can see a lot of what I read of Ellis's just kind of personal writings in this character, so it is sort of a judgment I'm making at least in my own head, even if I don't want to say it out loud, or really affirm it too much to you as a reader. As for the actual plot of this book, it's very mysterious. We begin with a Dr. Maria Kilbride in a some sort of hospital. I want to maybe say mental institution, but it's not explicitly clear what sort of hospital. But she's been there for a while, recovering from a mission that she did for the Force Projection International company, which hired her as some sort of scientist to do some weird time science stuff. We're not exactly sure. A lot of this is left to be explained in future issues, I'm sure. But she had a team, some stuff went wrong, and now she's cleaning up, helping the company, the FPI, clean up its messes. And while she's being recruited to do that, a lot of her other teammates are off doing their own thing. So we have the kind of the tech specialist on her team being called in to do some maintenance. We find out at the very end of the issue what that's about, but it seems like the sort of thing that'd be a spoiler, so I don't want to flip to that. We have Dr. Robin again, who's kind of being recruited to work on some other parts of the FPI that we're not quite sure about. But it happens on he's asked to go to a piece of land in Britain that he has some family history with, so he's reluctant to go. the person he's talking to is kind of saying, but it's your responsibility, and he tries to shirk that off as best as he can. He definitely doesn't want to go there. Yeah, it's one of those first issues that's more asking questions than it is kind of establishing things. I mean, it does establish the world. We're given this big company that apparently does these really weird science-y experiment sort of things that went wrong. We're given a team of characters who are all involved in this central problem, but we're not giving any concrete details. We're kind of discovering these things as the characters kind of re-enter this life, or being drafted back into this life. So it's hard. So it's a hard book to describe. It's a hard issue 1 to really say, okay, this is what's happening. This is who the characters are. Especially because a lot of the characters also seem not quite all there as of yet. Asking lots of questions, and but it's interesting. At least I think it's interesting. Marnell is definitely has a way. There's definitely this book definitely has a way of making you wonder. Okay, what went wrong? You know, who are these people? What are they experts in? What is this company? Why did this company need them? What happened? So yeah, lots to be answered. I'd probably recommend holding off, like, unless you know you're gonna like something like this, I'd recommend holding off until maybe the first trade, because I think it's gonna take a few issues to really get things on the ground, get things laid out, so it's, you know, so it's readable and kind of understandable as, okay, this is what the story is, because we're not quite sure what the story is yet. So yeah, it's one of those mystery stories where we're given a whole bunch of things thrown in this world and having to piece them all together eventually. Art. What can I say about the art? Well, all the characters were given kind of a flashback, and probably the biggest thing about the art is the characters have definitely aged. So we cut. Let me see if I can find a good thing. So we're given this the flashback. So we have young, kind of Doctor. This is Dr. Kilbride, young Dr. Kilbride here, and then in the present we have her looking very ragged, looking very worn from her experiences in the past. Same thing with Dr. Robin, very fresh-faced, kind of Marty McFly thing going on in the flashback, and then in the present, definitely older, kind of a John Constantine look a little bit, traveled, scruffy beard, not scruffy, but 5 o'clock shadow. So the characters are all definitely older for their experience. Bags under the eyes, which are clearly visible in this panel. And so that's, I think, going to be the driving force of the art, is seeing how the characters change and how well that's reflected in the art, and what these experiences just physically do to these characters. Like all issue 1, it's hard to really recommend as of yet. Not a great hook, you know, it's not starting off with an explosion or anything. But if you're the type of person who likes kind of intriguing mystery stories, piecing things together, possibly very kind of X-File-y paranormal things, then maybe pick it up. Maybe wait until there's more of this to pick up all at once. And that is it for May 13th in comic books, at least for me. If you have any questions, comments, your own opinions, whatever, feel free to leave them in the comments. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you want more of these every week, feel free to subscribe. And yes, thank you for watching, and I hope you'll join me next week for more of this stuff.